Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Think Nursing channel, where it's all about nursing, travel and lifestyle. And today we're going to talk about something a little bit different, and I want to talk about it because back then when I was growing up, I know we were very creative and we were doing a lot of things that nowadays we call it do it yourself. When I was growing up, a lot of time we never really had professionals to come and do certain work in the house for us, and so parents or neighbors, kids or children usually have to be a little bit more resourceful around the house, and we never really call it do it yourself. But nowadays, that is a word that we hear every day. I think it was more because of poverty why we're able to do certain things like that, or we tend to be very resourceful in Jamaica. When you don't have money to do certain kind of work, or what we consider to be wasted on certain things, you kind of turn your hand and make fashion, or you find things in the home to help with doing something else. So for example, you have a little paint container, you use it and take it to be a bucket. Or if you have a bucket, you use it and do something else, So we tend to do a lot of hands-on, a lot of repairs or anything like that. And it was like the norm back then. When we go ahead and do things like that, it's not necessarily about saving money, but it's really about survival, because you don't really have the money to save. You understand? You don't have it. So you have to find other ways and means of surviving. So a lot of times, I look at things that we're doing nowadays and just look at it to say that we were so creative back then. We were so creative back then because we were taking discarded items and turn it into things that we definitely need around the house. Sometimes we'll use discarded items and use it to make furniture. You understand? And so I was just kind of laughing to myself that a lot of things that we see people say we're doing a DIY repair, we're doing a DIY this. It's all started years ago for a lot of Jamaicans who were living in poverty. Me can do my faux locks now because of me braiding somebody else's hair back then, or me not being able to afford going to hairdresser back then. So I'm able to do my own hair because I was doing it at that time. So a lot of times, neighbors normally kind of come over and help out with one and two things, and that's how people build on different skills. Some persons will come and help out with simple furniture. If you're building a wall, putting on a roof, a lot of times a lot of persons will come out and help. And there wasn't any formal training, with those persons. It was just people coming up, doing things, and they're basically practicing. They're watching other persons doing it. And out of necessity, whatever they were doing back then, they become carpenters, they become plumbers because of all of that. So a lot of times you might see people doing things that they're saying, oh, we're recycling. Back then we were recycling from them time there, and it was because we were poor, but we never realized that we were doing something that later on would have become a trend. So while back then we were able to use old clothes and turn it into probably something that you use to wipe the floor, or you might have a broken chair that you might use some part of it and make something else. We were only using the resources that were available to us at the time because resource was kind of limited. Money was just limited. And this just goes back to show that, creativity is not only about saving money, but it also builds you as a person. And even though times can be tough, it only goes to prove that persons can still use whatever is in their environment to make a difference. So when you look at it, Jamaica might have some of the poorest communities, but one thing they have is strength, togetherness. Because they might just see one small victory and it is something that is very big for them. You understand? And so you might find out that you have persons who are living in certain communities. Their goal is always to either go to America, drive a big van, live in a big house, because that's how their dreams are. And this just goes to show that, in as much as some of the poorest communities are there, a lot of persons, they aspire to become better. They aspire to get out of the environment that they're in. And that is one thing I love about my Jamaican people. Our aspirations are always high. It's not a case where we just live in the ghetto, we live downtown, and we just think that's it. There is always hope that persons are looking towards. And I don't know why I decided to kind of touch on this topic. I was just kind of looking back at certain things that I used to do, and I was like, but nowadays I'm a pro at doing this because of the hardship I was going through. In the end, I think I did well, and a lot of persons out there have done well, and I want persons to understand and know that not because of your background, not because of the hardship you're going through, not because of your environment. You still can aspire to be the best. You can aspire to become very successful in life once you put your mind to it. And as I said, Jamaicans are very strong, and I know that you are a very strong person too. You are a very strong person, and once you put your mind to it, you will succeed at whatever it is that you're doing. So yes, a lot of persons back home, yes, we're doing a lot of DIY, do it yourself kind of work. But remember, as you go along, just keep on practicing, and practice will make perfect. You understand? You might not have a degree, or you might not have a certificate in welding. You might not have a degree in, communications, or, you don't have a degree in technology. But the little things that you're doing now to help yourself in the environment that you find yourself in, it will eventually pay off. It will eventually pay off. Just put your mind to it. Trust God and believe that He will do it for you, because He has done it for other persons. He has done it for me. And I'm sure that you are not no different than me and the other persons that He's working on or has worked on in the past. So just continue doing what you're doing, and eventually the results will pay off. All right. Until then, I just want to leave that with you. Hope you do have a wonderful evening. Remember to subscribe to the channel, like, share, and comment. All right. Until then, I will see you in the next video. Bye.